Don Thompson learned to ski in the summer of 1953. In 1956, he saw a barefoot water skier in a newsreel at a drive-in movie theater, jumping out of a pair of skis. He went home and designed and built a step-off ski and taught himself to barefoot. Barefoot water skiing was only 5 years old at the time. By 1956, he was building skis and ski molds and completed his first pair of water skis. In the summer of 1961, he taught himself to barefoot backwards. That winter, he sent a photo of himself backwards barefooting to the show director of Cypress Gardens. And in 1962, at the age of 20, Don was hired as a member of the Cypress Gardens show troupe and performed the backwards barefoot act in that show. By August of '62, he was featured on the cover of Water Ski magazine. Thompson is credited with introducing back barefooting to Cypress Gardens ski shows. He was an endurance barefoot record holder and the first ever to do the doubles act, which is when you barefoot with a girl on your shoulders. He also was the first to execute the 180-degree turn from back to front. In addition to barefooting, Don was also an excellent kite flyer. From 1975 to '77, Don worked as product development director at Cypress Gardens Ski Factory, and he's been building skis for 54 years. A quote from Don: "I'm most proud of the many legends of our sport that I was fortunate enough to know, including 3-event barefoot show skiers, kite flyers, knee boarders, wakeboarders, and all the officials." Don is an honorary lifetime member of the Latawana Ski Club, and he still takes the occasional slalom ride. Don Thompson, welcome to the stage. Our recipient award for distinction.
Congratulations, Larry. I'm lucky enough to have known about half of the 166 people that have been inducted into the Hall of Fame or received the award of distinction. At one point, I tried to go into the ski business with Medoc, but Craigcraft made him a better offer. Anyway, I've loved water skiing and the people in it. It's been a true joy knowing so many of those 166 people that have been inducted here. I really wanted to relate some humorous events, and so I tried to think of some, and knowing show skiers as I do, I finally concluded that most of those should remain in the locker room, not for mixed company. There are maybe a few things that I can tell. At Cypress Gardens, anytime new employees would show up, of course there were always pranks to play on. The first thing we would do is send them from department to department, to horticulture, to the next department, to Photorama. And we would always send them after things like red and white striped paint, a hair trigger, some shoreline, the key to the flagpole, or a bucket of prop wash. And so we were always having a good time in those days. I'd like to tell you about some of the fun I had inventing tumble turns and pipe deep water starts and barefoot doubles and surface turns and performing ski shows all over the world. But there's really not time enough for that. So I thought that I would maybe just tell you one short story. My first 48 hours at Cypress Gardens. And I arrived there on June the 5th, 1962, about 4 o'clock in the afternoon. It was pouring down rain, and the assistant show director said, "Well, follow me home. You can stay where I'm staying." And so I shared an apartment with him, and it was Lance Renfrow's apartment that he vacated 3 days earlier. And so anyway, the next morning we get up and we go out to the gardens, and I get introduced to Dick Pope Sr., Dick Pope Jr., and Simone Curry, the show director. And they said, "Well, we realize you've been in college for all winter, so we want you to go tune up, and after you feel like you're in shape, try and see if you can back barefoot in our show circle." So I had already gone to Jim McCormick's ski school for a couple days, and I'd already fine-tuned everything. So I went out back there for a little bit in the morning, got kind of bored. After we came back and Sandy skied, my driver skied the 10 o'clock show, and after that was over, I said, well, let's try one in the show circle and see how that goes. So I managed to make a step off in the show circle, and I was coming to the first turn, and I knew I kind of had a problem because it's going to try and whip you into the photo pier, and I was going to have to think faster to try and find some way of colliding with that. And fortunately, I managed to avoid that collision. But I went around the show circle, and it seemed kind of like fun, so I thought, well, let's try it again, see if it gets any rougher. And that second one went pretty good, so then I took a third one and fourth one. And so after a few laps, I finally skied into the takeoff dock, and when I climbed out, Barbara Cooper-Clark was standing there, and Stu McDonald was standing there, and they said, well, that was kind of interesting. And so then the assistant show director said, well, Dick Pope Sr. wants to see you. So I went up to Dick's office, and he said, we would like you to come down here and teach our skiers to do deep water barefoot and back barefoot and beach barefoot. And I said, well, I'd love to do that, but I'm a college student, so I'm really only available in the summer and on weekends. And he said, if you'll come down and teach our skiers to do that, as long as I'm here, you'll always have a job. And he was true to his word for the rest of his life. But so that was a pretty good first day. I had a job at the only year-round ski show in the world. I'm thinking things are going real well. And the assistant show director said, we're going to have a girls ballet, high school girl ballet practice this afternoon. Would you like to stay over and drive for that? And I said, well, do I get paid? He said, yeah, almost $1 an hour. I said, sign me up. So after work, 4 girls come down, Penny and Gail Van Gundy and Janice Wiegert and Kim Anton. These 4 little girls come down, and so we're taking them off the dock, teaching them the dock starts. They're learning the arm ballet, put their foot in the rope, rope between the legs, beach landings. And we do a couple of iterations of these. Everything's going pretty well. About the 3rd lap out, the girls all have their foot in the rope, and I'm driving down the beach, and the boat starts getting slower. So I start getting a little more gas, and it speeds up a little bit, and starts slowing down again. I give it some more gas, and pretty soon it just stops. So I look around, and the 4 girls are standing back there, arm in arm with their foot in the rope, in about 1.5 inches of water. And I'd gotten the boat too close to shore, and so we managed to push the boat back into the water, but the prop shaft and everything were just bent into noodles. So we swam the boat back, got another one down, finished the practice. Now I'm thinking maybe this first day isn't quite as good as I thought. So the next morning I show up, and Ed Hadacall Rayleigh is waiting for me there, and he said, Don, we got a real problem. He said, you totally trashed that boat. It's going to be $575 for the parts to fix it. And right away I'm thinking, yeah, that's more than I'll make this summer by quite a bit. And he said, and Danny told me just to deduct it from your paycheck every week. So I guess my jaw really dropped up in about then. I heard some laughter, and I looked over, and all the boat drivers were at the corner of the boat there laughing at me. They were in on the roofs, and they had already fixed the boat, and there was really no problem. We used the boat in the first show, and so that thus ends my first 48 hours at Cypress Gardens. Thanks a lot. I really appreciate it.
Lance Renfrow. Lance started skiing in 1956 at the age of 14, skiing in local ski shows also, but down in Lake Worth, Florida. At the young age of 16, he went to work at Bartlett's water ski shows in the Wisconsin Dells. And then in 61, he went back to Florida to ski at the Cypress Gardens ski show, where he performed in all areas of the show. Lance attended Arizona State University and graduated with a degree in chemical engineering. And interestingly enough, years later, it was for ASU Collegiate Water Ski Team that Lance was helping coach that they won the national title, and that was 2001. Lance competed as a 3-event skier from 1959 to 1992, his specialty being the jump event. because it gave him great comfort to know you didn't have to practice that often to stay injured. It also gave him a personal perspective for innovating a knee brace designed to help skiers and protect skiers' knees in the future, which he took pride in. His background as an engineer also gave him insights for building a man-made ski lake in the middle of the California desert. In 1971, he went to Bank of America for a loan. When he told the banker that his idea and why he needed the money was to build a ski lake in the middle of the Mojave Desert, as you can imagine, the banker ushered him out of the door without the money. Overcoming the obvious obstacles, Lance and several partners built a community development known as Wetset Village, and the dream became a reality for many families and many skiers. Lance has been an American Water Ski Educational Foundation trustee since 1987, all the way to the present, and he has served on the membership committee, the scholarship committee, and the Hall of Fame selection committee. Will you please welcome to the stage our next award of distinction recipient, Lance Renfrow.
I reread the rules from Carol, and she said only 2 minutes, and it's been well over, I can't tell you, with 56 years in this sport in 2 minutes. First of all, I want to thank all the selection committee, which include Mike and Glenn and Ricky, Ruth, Mike Avila, Jeff Clark, Paul, Lisa St. John, Tom Weber, and of course, Ed Brazil. I also want to thank CWLO and Carol for putting on this marvelous dinner tonight. I sat out there for many years and realize now how much work Carol really does and CW. Without them, this couldn't happen. It was 56 years ago this month that I discovered the wonderful sport of water skiing. It was in Riviera Beach, Florida, and I remember that day like it was yesterday. My parents had a boat in Lake Worth, and I skied on Lake Osborne, and I soon discovered that I could ski to school before I could drive a boat. So I and another friend skied to school, changed our clothes, and after school, we came home. Wow, couldn't be any better than that. I do remember one incident with my buddy, his name was Dan Dummett, and 2 girls that we wanted to impress. I was proficient on one ski, and as not very proficient on one ski. As a 14-year-old, I wanted to show off a little bit. Well, I fell. As I fell, I lost my suit. I looked up, and about 10 feet from me was an alligator. I dived into the boat with Dan and the 2 girls as we watched my suit float away. You can better bet I learned to ski a lot better after that day. A number of years ago, I was watching the History Channel, and there was a program called The Story of Us. The story is how America grew from the Mayflower until this day. It's a fascinating story, and one thing is for sure, we could not have done it alone without the help of others. The story of my last 56 years parallels the story of us, because what happened could not have happened without others. In 1962, I dreamed of a private man-made lake, primarily because the boaters would come into the show circle both at Cypress Gardens and at Tommy Bartlett's water ski show. This was very aggravating, and so the only way was to have your own stadium. In 1971, Wetset Village was my dream that began. Madeline, Bart Swiggers, and I were the 2 original partners, developers of this man-made lake. And interesting enough, the name Wetset came from Art Swigger's boat. Art is here tonight, and without his knowledge and his dedication, that lake would not have been built. Art, thank you very much. As the word spread, the wet set grew to 5 partners. My father, Frank Harrison, Walt Cook, a gentleman named Mac McCullum, and once again, the help of others that made the dream a reality. We needed money, and as David said, we then went to the bank and asked for some money. And the bank came back and said, well, what are you going to do with this money? And we said, we're going to build a water ski lake. With raised eyebrows, next question was, where are you going to build this water ski lake? And the answer was, out in the Mojave Desert. Can you imagine their response? Remember, this was the time when the drug revolution and the banks thought we were high. We were. On life and water skiing. I also want to acknowledge my former wife, Susie, who gave it her all. She dug ditches, she hung structures, she moved into a new house, raised a family, helped me build a business, and with all this crazy idea of building a lake. Without her, this could never have happened. I thank you, Susie, for all of that work. I would like to say that I've been privileged to know just about every Hall of Famer, award of distinction. When I was starting out, the names were Joe Cash, Buster McCalla, Mike Osborne, Hedden, Barbara Cooper in those days. There were others, Len Sperry, Stearns, Larry Panaccio, Bob and Kristen Point, Mrs. St. John, Carl Robert, somewhere out here, and the list goes on. But each of you knows our water ski family. Look around this room, each of you knows our water ski family. It is a part of our wonderful sport, whether it be a 3-event competitive skier, a barefooter, show skiing, racing, wakeboarding. The thrill of competition and good sportsmanlike conduct shows the world the true joy and the positive of our great sport. Somewhere around here we were family, and all family.